Hello, and welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shyra.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Love Always Self. I don't know if you've checked the calendar lately, but we have merged into October, which means that it's almost Halloween.
Ooh,
And you know what
spooky.
that means? Costumes and masks, and we get to dress up. So that's my segue to this episode topic, which is removing the mask that we constantly wear in our day to day to get through society and to help us feel accepted and welcomed and not ostracized. So today we wanted to discuss the masks that we wear on a day to day basis and the importance of removing them and allowing your true self to shine through.
Ooh, scary. I was going to say spooky earlier, and I was like, then Scooby Dooby Doo popped in my head, and I was like, okay, I'll stop.
So, we tend to put on these masks, like I said, because we're afraid that we're not going to be accepted in society for
Hmm.
our true self. And a lot of that is rooted in our own lack of self-acceptance and self-confidence and self-worth. So, one of the things that I notice most frequently with people that are wearing their masks is that this creates this illusion of separation and feeling alone, like you're having to deal with all your problems all by yourself and nobody else is experiencing any issues like yours.
Oh, that's so true. I mean, you can't get any more on point than that because we all do it. Not a single one of us doesn't put on a mask at some point in time in their life.
Mhm.
And a majority of us are doing it on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
ever have like an experience at home, you're maybe upset, you leave the house to go to the grocery store, but yet you make pleasant conversation with the checkout clerk, right?
Exactly.
You're
Yeah.
completely wearing a mask of what's truly going on with you.
Mhm.
And what is that from, right? It's normally from like having some kind of a fear to like push your issues on to somebody else, or you don't want anyone to know that you're not in a good place at that moment. um
Right.
you know yeah.
I catch this a lot, when I run into somebody I haven't seen in a while, and you ask the pleasantries, "Hey, how are you?" And the first thing that comes out is, "Oh, I'm good." But there's a lot of times where that, "Oh, I'm good" seems really forced and false. And you know, I can sometimes feel these underlying ripples of, suffering and feeling lonely and hurting. And it makes me a little sad that we don't feel comfortable sharing these things. Now, of course, I'm not saying that we have to share everything with everybody.
Yeah, it's situational.
However, yeah, when we do share it, that gives greater opportunity for love and support when we need those things. And I'm trying to offer encouragement to find those people that you are comfortable with, that love you without conditions,
Mm.
and open yourself to receive that, support, that shoulder, that hug, that, "Hey, I've got you right now."
Yeah. And I mean, and where does it come from, right? Where does the need to hide what's truly going on with you, or the need to wear the mask, where does it come from? A lot of the times it comes from the fear of judgment from others,
Mhm.
which we
While
all
we're busy
experience,
judging ourselves.
or we're busy judging ourselves, right? And a majority of those judgments are reflections of self, right? Things that you already have in your own space, in your own head, situational creations of, I don't know, subconscious thought processes that have piled on throughout the years. Um, I do think that,
I
like,
Go ahead.
yeah, I do think that sometimes, there can be situations where, what's that phrase when you go to work and you say, leave it at the door, right? Um, you know, those are kind of times where when you start to pile that on over and over and over again, and you get to a point where you're like, I'm going to need a sick day today
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you've been building this back in this backlog of wearing that mask,
Yeah, you're
getting
having a
heavy.
day where your real self is showing through the masks, and you need to take a day for yourself.
Hmm.
And I think that our society has built this belief over the last how many decades to maybe a century that you present yourself in a professional manner whenever you leave the house.
Mm,
Anything personal that's going on stays at home. What happens at home stays at home.
right.
And that's just not true because we carry those with us. Whether, something occurs at home, in the office, on the street, we carry that with us everywhere we go.
And it's felt. I mean, how many times have you seen a friend or, someone that you've run into and you're like, "Hey, how's it going?" And, very rarely anyone actually responds with the truth like, "Oh man, today just completely freaking sucks."
Mhm.
They're like, "Oh, no, it's good, it's going great. How are you?" Standard response that you were mentioning earlier. And but you feel it. You get that sense. You pick it up intuitively, right?
I was just thinking about a text conversation with a friend who moved away, and she reached out recently and asked me exactly that. "Hey, how are you doing?" And I remember typing out, "Oh, I'm good," and then deleting it, and "Oh, I'm fine," and then deleting it, and then, writing out this long spiel of, "Oh, fine. Just wishing that da 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 da, and we could live on a happy co-op island together with our friends and family without any power hungry da da da." And I kind of went on a little rant and I sent that to her and she didn't respond for like 24 hours. And the whole time I was beating myself up like, "Oh, I was too much."
Mm,
She wasn't needing that from me in that moment. She was needing something softer, just judging my response, judging
okay.
me. And it was funny because when she responded, it was very validating actually in
Aw.
response. It was, "Oh, I hear you. Sometimes things are rough, but overall things are, moving in a happy direction, but sometimes we feel the little dips." And basically just validating and reminded me without saying it that I am not too much. I am
You
always enough.
you started what is it, the Brene Brown creating
Mhm.
a story in your head?
Mhm. Mhm. The story
Uh,
I'm telling myself is I'm too much right now.
I always think about the dots, the
Oh
little
gosh, yeah.
ellipses that people are seeing when you start typing and then you delete and then it goes away. And then you see the little dots again and then it goes away. And then there's nothing for like an hour. And you're like, and then all of a sudden, story time just starts happening straight up in the brain. Like, what's going on? What are you
Right.
about to say? Let me now fill in all the gaps of everything I think is going to happen in response.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm. All the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah. All those three little dots.
So, sometimes the mask is, a representation of parts of ourselves, but I would argue that it's never our full self,
Mhm.
and that's okay, right? I'm not saying that wearing a mask is wrong. All I'm trying to get at is there are times when we need to remove the mask because sometimes that mask gets stinky and we need to cleanse the area and release what is no longer serving us and release parts of the mask because we are always in a state of transformation. Thus, our mask sometimes needs to transform with us.
I was watching this TikTok video where this lady was talking about working out. I'm going to just tell this little story for a second. And she was talking about, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to work out today, but future me wants this.
Mm,
Right. And and I'm kind of tying that back to what we're discussing today because sometimes I do that myself. I'm like, today I am not in a great place. And, but future Shira wants to be here in this happier, better place. What is it that I need to do today to get to her?
Mhm.
And sometimes that involves just being the full, authentic me in that now moment. So if I can't perform my job that day because the me that needs to be here is like pissed off or angry or sad or whatever, then that's the day that I'm calling in. I need a
Mhm.
personal day to not bring this to work, because I mean, let's be honest, there's some things and going on in your life that maybe you shouldn't have, conversations about at work, but like,
Yeah. Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to work through this in my own space in my own way and releasing the fear of judgment from others. And if I'm truly worried about that, then maybe I take that personal day to literally just be with me. And, if you can't do that, then maybe you inform those around you. Today, I need to just fully be in release mode so I don't have to hold on to this anymore.
I think this is just not just. This is about creating awareness around the
Mhm.
mask wearing.
Fingers, finger guns.
So there is a time and a place for our masks to be worn, i.e. professionally, at work in the office. Yeah. Yeah. That's a time when we need to wear our professional mask.
Right.
Um but at home, being able to remove that mask and be true to your authentic self and being authentic with the people that you are navigating this life with,
Yeah.
your spouse, your partner, your immediate family, your extended family, your friends. And the hope is that we can truly be authentic with those people. And if we can't, we know that those are the people that we are maybe protecting our energies from
Yeah.
and creating boundaries with. And that's okay too.
Oh, absolutely. There's days that Carrie and I get on this, recording sessions for our podcast. And I'll start off and I'll just be like, dude, I am not in a good place today. Full transparency, right?
Hmm.
And and I know that I can trust in our conversations that she holds space for that, right? Because I have built this relationship and this communication style with her. And that is something that I take on responsibility in ensuring that I do.
Hmm.
And she does the same thing with me. And that allows us to be who we are 100%
Hmm.
in every single one of our moments. And that is a very freeing feeling to have that in your environment. So now multiply that, all the other people you spend a lot of time with, right? All the other humans that you interact with. And you've created this freedom within.
Freedom within, you are creating deeper connections with each other and you're recognizing that you're not alone or separate. Because again, circling back, we create constant illusions of separation
Oh
and
yeah.
aloneness. And that is not truth.
It's so often that you'll have a conversation with somebody and then you finally decide to reveal what's really going on with you. And then you discover they're going through something very similar.
Mhm.
And you're like, what? You too? You have
Mhm.
those moments.
And then
And
you feel a little less alone
and then you feel
and you
less
can
alone.
collaborate and you
Right.
can say, "Hey, that this worked for me.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll help you."
Those are the
Mm.
best. And then now you have this full conversation and you leave the situation. You're like, I feel so much better.
Yeah, you just feel a little bit lighter because you're no longer struggling under the weight all by yourself.
Yeah.
So,
It is a community.
it is. And that's important. And in community, we find unity
Mhm.
and it all leads back to source.
Community, humanity. Humanity of community. I'm playing around with words now.
Yeah, you are.
You're welcome.
Oh, so have you thought about what you're going to wear for Halloween?
I would love, because everyone tells my husband that he looks like either Littlefinger or Doctor Strange. And so I was like, if you do Doctor Strange, then all I have to do is put on some scrubs. So that would be
Nice.
cool. With a
Easy
name
peasy.
tag. Right.
I know that there's a partial lunar eclipse at the end of the month right before Halloween and another eclipse a couple weeks later. So there's a lot of energies flying around out there and lots of energy within. Don't forget to tap into that and know that you are unique and special and loved, and you are supported by the world and each of us. Don't forget to reach out to us if you would like to find out more information or would like us to discuss certain topics. We are always open to supporting all of the listeners.
All of the listeners. So hit that notifications bell for future content. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. And don't forget
To love first
love last.
and love always. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shyra.
And until next time, remember to love first,
Love last,
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.